Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Neuro-Inclusive Dog Pod, the podcast where we bridge the gap between neurodiversity and the dog world. And today's guest is a really, really fantastic guest that I've got coming on for you. I met her at this year's Big Festoon, which is an event that actually started my neurodivergent journey last year. So to have somebody coming on from that community and that gets all the neuro-inclusive stuff that I'm doing is really, really important. So I will let her introduce herself and tell us a little bit about what you do. So hi, Sarah, thank you for coming on the podcast. Could you tell our listeners who you are and what you do?
So my name is Sarah Malone. I am the founder and director of a company called K3 UK Coaching. And without sounding a little bit mysterious, I know all your secrets and I help you pull them out, lay them bare, and package them back inside so you're ready and prepared to go forward in the journey that you were supposed to be on, not the one that you think you are on.
Mm-hmm. Super. So for people in the dog world that are listening that are new to all of this kind of stuff, so tell us how you can help business owners with the work that you do.
God, there's lots of layers to this.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to, if we try and separate a little bit, when it comes to neurodiversity, neurospiciness is what I like to call it, because we are all a little bit spicy in our own rights. So when it comes to neurospiciness, we're typically more aware, but we might not be aware that we're more aware. So we're more aware of other people's feelings, thoughts, emotions, energies, frequencies, things like that. When it comes to obviously then putting it into the dog world, we become really super sensitive to not only the people, but the dogs. So you're then having to try and make this complex separation into something that is joint. So you're trying to bring in the energy from a person to complement the energy of a dog. And if that doesn't kind of collide or complement each other, it is going to cause conflict and disruption and chaos. You know, if you don't understand the dog and the needs, and you don't understand your needs and your time of whatever you're going through, it is just going to cause more conflicts. So what I think is the best thing to do is, dogs are simple creatures. We are simple creatures, but we have designed ourselves in such a complicated way that dogs then feed off that energy. So if we add in the neurospiciness to it, where we're constantly thinking and feeling and doing 40,000 things ahead of ourselves, and then jumping back 10 years ago to the chaos and the overwhelm and the burnout from something that happened that was so minuscule but is now impacting us right now, can you imagine what that does for your dog? Your dog's going to be like, I don't know whether we're coming or going, or if I should take a pee, or if I should just go and eat some food and then be sick because I don't know what's happening. Sorry, you want me to run where?
Yeah.
So when it comes to the human side of thing, I try and take care of that. I try and help you regulate, but not in a way that makes it dissipate. It's about being able to become aware of where you're at emotionally and physically and energetically and mentally, to then be able to then go, okay, what is it that I need to do for myself to make sure that I'm showing up the right way externally so I can get the results that I require, desire, and desire.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting. Like, as you were talking there, my brain was going like, yes, all of this, because for years, so the two hats I wear from a business, like from an agility perspective, I have always said from the day dot of doing it, I'm like, it's no good just focusing on the dog. You need to focus on you. And if you don't, the dogs pick up on our energies. Like, I talk about it till the cows come home, and it's like, especially with competition agility and stuff, it's like, what we bring to the start line, I describe it as like an emotional backpack. Basically, we bring all this stuff to the start line, and our dog's going to feel it, like with the our energies, what we're how we smell, they smell, or all our emotions, that kind of thing. And it's like, the one thing I can't understand with the dog world, and it's like a massive bugbear of mine, is why we put so much focus on the dog. And so you've got the dog that comes to classes, whether you're teaching obedience, whatever you're teaching, and like the human side of it just wants the dog to behave, or they just want to do agility or whatever it is. And it's like, hearing what you said there about this conflict, I was like, yes, that's exactly it. When the two, like for me, when the energies don't match up, you do get this like conflict, and the owner's got sometimes unrealistic expectations, and they put so much on the dog. And I'm like, actually, just let's have a look at you. And I think sometimes people are scared to have that look at, like, that internal look at themselves, aren't they? And they're like, oh gosh, it's not me, or whatever. And I hear it time and time again, especially working with dog professionals that tune into the more spiritual side of things, and they say about, oh, your dog's feeling this, or whatever. Again, that's something, the spiritual side of dogs is not something that I know a massive amount, so I'm not going to go into massive detail because I'll probably get it wrong. But yeah, it's about looking at the human as well. And actually, as dog business owners, whether we're trainers or dog professionals, I think there's kind of two elements to it, isn't there? There's kind of us as dog business owners, but there's also our clients as well. And I think it's, for me, a lot of my business journey has been doing my own inner work and working on me, so then I can provide a fantastic service for the people that I teach and help, really. So when it comes to dog businesses, what I find is a lot of people they concentrate on the dog stuff, and then they think, oh, I need to do a little bit of business stuff, I need to do the marketing, I need to do all of this kind of stuff. But I've never really met, until coming into the worlds that I the circles I hang around in now, so to speak, I haven't really met a lot of people that do that inner work. So for people listening, why do you think it's important to work on that inner work as much as you do the businessy type of stuff?
Because without the inner work, how can you do the outer work? We
Yeah.
come from a space where we're constantly being fed things externally, internally, programming, TV programs, being programmed. This is how we should be doing. This is how we should be acting. This is how we should be thinking. This is how we should be feeling. External into internal. But we forget we can do internal to external. So we can take responsibility for things. But the problem with that is that would mean that we have to do self-reflection. We have to look at things and do something that I class that it's out there for the world to see, is 5 whys. So I feel something. Why do I feel that way? Well, because of that. Right. Well, why is it because of that? Well, because of this. Well, why is it because of this? Oh, well, because this happened. Okay, well, why did that happen? Oh, well, because I did this. Okay, so why did I do that? You're going deeper. You're doing self-reflection.
Yeah.
5 whys is a great space to start with. Sometimes you won't get there because, unfortunately, our brains are created to protect us. And a lot of the time when we can't do the inner work, it's because of two things. It's because of hurt and fear. So we're either really hurt by something, and it might not be something that is completely directly connected. It might just be an experience that we've went through, or we're fearful because we have been externally told that that is not how we get things done. That is not how we should be. And I think this is a problem when it comes to us as humans. We tend to look externally for validation, acknowledgement, and appraise, and all these things because we have been taught in order for us to be our best versions, we're better together. And yes, we are better together, but only if you're strong enough to be able to stand and be clear in your own boundaries. And a lot of us are not clear on our boundaries because we come from a place of fear and hurt. So we're constantly in survival mode, right? What can I do to protect myself? What can I do to stop this feeling? So if you're not going to be able to sit and do inner to outer, you're constantly being drip fed outer to inner, which isn't your journey. It isn't your destiny, your path, your energetic space. You are just being a person, character, actor, actress in this role that you're playing, in this film, this directive. But when you shift that and start looking at your own version and how that looks like and how that could play out and what that could mean and what that could do, you start coming from a space where there's more acknowledgement, more awareness, more space to be able to connect to what is really going on for you, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. Yeah. The good, bad, or ugly is irrelevant in the realm of what it is that you're doing. It's holding that space for yourself. A lot of the time it comes from childhood. It's the inner version, the little person inside you that is literally just looking to have space to be seen and heard. But you're so quick to look externally and be seen and heard by this people rather than this person that we just become full of chaos and conflict and real complicated situations and limiting beliefs rather than really recognizing how powerful you can truly be for your own self.
Yeah, definitely. And that's super interesting. And it's one of the things, there's a couple of things that you said that I picked up on. I always talk about, you call it the 5 whys. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna kind of pinch that, because I always talk about people's whys, but I've never gone as deep as 5. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting to me. So I'm gonna pinch that off you. Yeah, because it's always.
Can I jump in? Can I say the reason why?
Yeah,
the reason that I use 5 whys. So if you look at 5 whys, the first 2, 3 tend to be surface level because it's like, oh, well, it's because of this. It's still external. Oh, it's because of them. Oh, but it's still external. The third why, you're finding it difficult to find the reasons externally. So you come inside. But in numerology, 5 is all about building. It's all about being able to start coming from something of nothing. We look at it, number 5 is like the house building. It's a foundation. So by the 5th why, you should really start being really internal in the conversation that you're having. Why is this? And if you can't get to the 5th why, then you know you have a damn sight more work you have to do for yourself, because you're scared to go inward. You're always going to be external. So it's why it's always starts with 5.
Amazing, thank you. I'm definitely going to take that on board, and I think it's important as well because you touched on some things there about all the external factors, and I think it doesn't matter whether you're in the business world, the dog world, or wherever we always, we can be like, especially neurodivergent, seeking that validation, aren't we, from other people, and especially in the dog world, there's like, it can be quite clicky at times, and like, this latest thing to jump onto, or part of this sort of an organization. And one of the massive things that I found since actually realizing I was neurodivergent and stuff, and actually, because I always was like, oh, I don't fit in this space in the dog world, everybody's like a certain way, and I just feel like an outsider and things. And then once I got my diagnosis, I was like, okay. And then I realized that's what the dog world is missing, is the fact that they've got a huge range of, neurodivergent people that are just kind of like not catered for and stuff. Hence why I'm doing all of this and the podcast and stuff. But I think for me, when it comes to looking for external validation as a neurodivergent person, a massive turning point in my business was actually allowing myself to be who I was, and accepting who I was, and going, oh, actually, this is me. And then my whole business changed because I realized that, the people I was teaching weren't right for me. They were making me get burnout. They were giving me all of these, negative things around my business. And that was because I was hugely masking and hugely like going, oh, I'm meant to do this for my business and I'm meant to do that. But actually, it doesn't really fit with my values and my boundaries and stuff. And actually, last year, I was like, no, I'm not even going to do a dog business anymore. I'm just not going to do it. I don't even want to do agility, that kind of thing. I was like, nope, because I was completely burnt out, but didn't realize about that. So I took a step back. I kind of like just sat with myself for a little bit, and not literally, obviously, sometimes things come to you as you're driving in the car and things, and I'm like, actually, and realigned everything that I was doing. So when it comes to the work that you do, I suppose when you are dealing with neurodivergent people, I suppose it's like even more important, isn't it, to do that inner work, because we have been used to masking and perform in a certain way. Do you find that?
Absolutely. It's interesting. First thing that you said was that you had things come to you when you were doing other things like driving. The
Yeah.
reason that neurodivergent or people in general do this is because the brain is busy. It's on autopilot doing the things that is habitual, because that's what the brain wants. It wants to feel comfortable and safe doing the things it knows, and it only knows the things that it knows from the things that we've done. So you
Uh-huh.
quite often find inspiration or your best ideas come in the shower. Why do they come in the
Yeah.
shower? It's because your brain is busy going out. We need to wash, we need to do, we need to shave, we need to scrub, we need to clean,
Yeah.
we need to. So your brain's going through the systematic habitual habits,
Yeah.
which means that your soul or your spirit can then bubble up just a little bit and go, well, what about this? Because they're busy. What about
Amazing.
this? Yeah. And this is where intuition or connection to your inner circle, your inner compass really comes from, that leaning in. Yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes to neurospiciness, I used to use the word masking, and now I use the word that we look for external validation, because we've become so dumbed down that we're putting a mask on. And I don't think that you're putting a mask on, because there's elements where we still want that external validation, and that's
Yeah.
okay. We still want people to see us in a certain light or a certain way, in a certain shape, and that's okay, because that's what keeps us in a community. Doesn't mean that we have to get on all the time, but there needs
Yeah.
to be some elements of similarities or synergy in order for us to feel that we are part of something bigger. So I always say it's more you are seeking something that isn't serving you. So it's the external validation, acknowledgement, limiting beliefs that are you're then showing up aversion. And when it comes to neurodiversity, one of the biggest things that I've seen, and one of the biggest traits that I've seen with neurodiversity, is mirroring. So you then
Right.
become less of who you are and more of who they are. Now,
Yeah.
there is a conflict within that, because if somebody is showing up energetically, emotionally, as frustrated, pissed off, angry, hurt, whatever it is, but they're not actually saying, this is how I feel, but they're showing up that way, slumped shoulders, really stressed face, or really short,
Yeah.
snappy answers, you'll find that quite a lot of neurodivergent people will then mirror that. And they will then become that person in that energy, which then causes conflict. And then what
Yeah.
happens with that neurodivergent brain? It goes, oh my God, I haven't done what I needed to do because that's not what I wanted to do. And then you get that, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, and you're 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Whereas when we recognize and we become more aware that we're not taking our own energy, but we're taking the collective of everyone around us, When you're able to then disconnect from it and go, I don't need to be that version. Or somebody comes up really excited. I call it puppy syndrome. You know,
Yeah.
it's where we then learn by doing something repeatedly that somebody else has done. You know,
Yeah.
when we go to puppies, you
Yeah.
train them based on trying to do positive reinforcement. Now, if you're trying to train a puppy for a treat to sit, you constantly give them a treat when they sit. But if
Yeah.
that puppy is a little bit disobedient, you might find that you then get frustrated because you know they can do it, but there's no consistency. So you then
Yeah.
might find that you're shouting and it's sit. The
Yeah.
energy's changed. And that dog then might respond to that. So
Yeah.
it means that every other time the dog's no longer going to respond to the sit, it's going to respond to the sit.
Yeah.
We do that as people. So we then mirror that space. So if we become aware that this isn't actually our energy, it isn't actually our traits, this is somebody else's that we've actually taken on because this is what we do,
Mm.
you're able to take a step back and go, whoa, like, is this me? Or is this me trying to mirror somebody else because I feel like I need to fit in or I feel like I need to do something that isn't
Mm.
actually myself? When we come back to that space, you're then starting to do the inner work where you're like, yeah, I don't want to be that person. I'm okay feeling chaotic. I'm okay being too much and being like
Yeah.
Tigger, or I'm okay being quiet and just observing, you know,
Yeah.
rather than trying to fit in with this crowd. And I think that then helps, especially neurodiversity, to regulate your emotional well-being, which is doing the
Mm.
inner work.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's so interesting. It's like what you were saying now. It's like you've been listening to my dog training videos. You obviously haven't, but it's like when you're saying about the energies and stuff. And I talk about in agility all of the time because people will be like, they'll be feeling a certain way when they're competing and stuff, and then they'll like get to the start line. They're dead nervous. They really want to win or do well or whatever it is, and then they'll have a normal start line routine, we call it, and when they still put the dog on the start line. And training, it's all happy and it's all nice and it's all positive. And then they get to competition and the dog's probably distracted about, some distractions or whatever it can be going off in their world. And then the handler will suddenly start getting that different of energy and they'll start shouting at the dog or doing that. And they don't realize it. They're being like aversive to the dog and the dog's picking up on that negative energy. And then they're like, oh, they get louder or they get, then the dog feels the pressure. And then it becomes this massive like catalyst of the dog feeling a negative association towards agility. Then they feel this pressure and then it kind of harms the relationship and stuff. And the handler doesn't actually realize what's going on because in agility we're just taught that we turn up to the start line, our dog does the skills and that's what happens. And I'm like, before you know it, time goes on and the handler's practicing this, and then what you've got a dog that's sitting on the start line that's actually like scared or it's slowed down or it's worried because it's like all of this thing is just
And that's the word. What did you just say?
I don't know,
The
remind
dog's
me.
scared.
Yeah.
Why is
Yeah.
the dog scared? Because the owner is hurt and scared. Because the
Yeah.
dog isn't performing the way, because it's looking for external validation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's the same
Interesting.
thing.
Yeah.
It's full
Yeah.
circle. So you're literally just the dog is just displaying the very emotions as regardless if you're not neurodiverse or you
Yeah. Yeah.
are, the dog is just displaying the very thing that you are feeling deep down inside, but you haven't given yourself credit to sit with the five whys and figure out why.
Yeah, this is so interesting. Like I say, I was having another podcast conversation with somebody like who does all the spiritual sides, and they speak about how the dog is our mirror, and it mirrors our, when dogs are displaying certain behavioral issues and stuff, they usually find, when people have been to behaviorists and all that kind of stuff, and it's not worked, the dog is usually mirroring something that's happening within the owner, and it's how, like I say, I don't know the spiritual side of that kind of stuff, but how it's just basically mirroring what's going off, and it's because the owner hasn't dealt with their stuff that the dog is displaying it. Now from a personal experience, I have that with my young dog Quest. He's started competing. He was I thought, I'd always suffered from anxiety for years. Got my first dog because I needed to leave the house. I was too anxious to leave the house. Fast forward to now realize it's neurodiversity and whatever else. However, I was like, oh, I've dealt with all of that, that's fine. Gets to the competition. Quest was really anxious and anyway, sorted all his dog stuff out, gets to competition and he'd be doing quite well. See these two people that were horrible to me in the past, basically, that said all of these nasty things, shouldn't be a trainer, all of that kind of stuff. And this one person, I built a whole business for her and then for free because I thought she was a friend. As soon as I'd done that, she was like, oh, thanks very much, never spoke to me again, and become best friends with this person that was nasty to me, said I shouldn't be a trainer. I'm like, oh, thanks. Put my dog on the start line and they're there. And I'm like, oh, great. And I'm like, it's okay, we've got this. Quest is doing really well. I led out And then as soon as I released him, he literally froze. And I was like, what on earth are you doing? And then I went back to him and he literally just flipped on his back. Never, ever, ever did that before. And I'm like, oh my God, you're making it like I hit you. And I've never touched you. I've never done anything nasty to him. And I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. It's just literally, and just like did the best I could at the time. And I'm like, actually, that's because I've not dealt with that stuff. Do you know what I mean? And I had to then go away and just rewind it all. And I'm like, thanks very much, Quest. We've now had about 6 months of me. And for all of last year, it just completely, I wouldn't say ruined my competing thing, but it did, because I thought we got to a certain stage because I thought we were fine. And I was like, oh, thanks for that. And I've spent all of last year working on my stuff, because if there was any time where where I saw somebody I didn't like, or I was feeling a certain way, it would just reflect in him completely. And I'm like, oh, great, I've got more stuff to work on, that kind of stuff. So it's super interesting about how we.
But isn't that interesting that your new dog came to show you the things that you hadn't actually dealt with or become super aware of, that you were able to be in your power and go, okay, had you done that work and, it was a different version of a dog, would that have happened? Absolutely not.
No.
But this dog has come to say, look, by the way, we still have work to do. I'm here to help you, but it's not going to be an easy ride. It's not going to be this smooth sailing,
Yeah, it's so interesting. I always say that to people, like, because when I first got Quest, I was like, my other 2 dogs are grade 7 dogs, and it was, I wouldn't say easy. There was always stuff we needed to work on. So I was like, I'll get a new dog and it'll just be, we'll just work on the agility skills and all of that other stuff. And then it was like, because I thought my business was going in a direction of, that kind of thing. And then actually he came along and taught me all of this stuff. And I've actually, because of him and because of the stuff we've done, I focus now on helping, I'd specialize in agility behavior, I specialize in anxious handlers, anxious dogs, that kind of thing. And I always think it, as frustrating it was at this time for me just to want an agility dog to just do it, I'm like, well, if you hadn't have done this, we always say that you get the dog you want, not the dog. You get the dog you need, not the dog you want. And I'm like, yeah, because if he hadn't have come along, my business wouldn't be where it is now, and I wouldn't be helping those type of people. So as frustrating as it was, I'm like, oh, thanks for that, because now I help the people that I like help, that to me, that are like me or have faced similar things, and it's so interesting when I delve deeper into this kind of spiritual work and stuff, just from a dog point of view, but also from a me point of view as well. So it's really really important. And I know a lot of the work that I did was having to go back, like say, and revisit old wounds, so to speak, and things that had happened in the past. And one of the major things is, like, when I first started being a trainer, an agility trainer, I got lots of negative criticism. You shouldn't be a trainer, your dogs aren't proper spaniels, this, that, and the other. And I think for a lot of business owners, whether they're in the dog world or not, I think what happens and what stories we've told ourselves and things from the past can come up and haunt us. So in the work that you do you find that happens a lot?
Absolutely. There's a saying that I've actually got, and it says, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but if it was foresight, it would change everything. Because if we became aware of the things that happened in the past, when they then present themselves in the present, we can go, whoa, I've been here before. Like this is no longer my jam. But the problem is our brains are designed to keep us safe, right? Basically, it has a really beautiful filing cabinet, but it has lots of locks and lots of keys hidden everywhere. So all the stuff that it thinks caused us trauma, triggers, emotional discomfort, challenges, whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. It puts it in a filing cabinet and it locks the key. And it will only allow us to go through the painful part quickly in order for us to take a step back and get out of it. And that isn't about us being able to evolve. It isn't about us being able to learn. It isn't about us being able to experience what it is that we need to experience. So we then come back and we go through the same process again. And it's a reason why lots of people go through what I call loops or cycle breakers. I call it being on the hamster wheel, that you're on and you're going nowhere fast and you're going through the same things. But what is really interesting is we can go through these experiences and never in our lives connect the dots. So we can go through, like, I'll give you an example. This is the things that I speak about when I first kind of assess clients to see if they're ready for this work. I go, you may have a little version of yourself, maybe 2-3 years old, and you're in a park, you're playing, you fall over and you graze your knee, you hurt your knee, you cry out because you're little and you need somebody to save you because you don't know how to save yourself. You look up, trying to scour for your parents, your guardians, whoever it is that's looking after you, that's responsible for you. And they're maybe talking to somebody else and they haven't heard your cry. Okay. You instantly tell yourself a story. Nobody loves me. I have to save myself, even though I don't know how. You will
Yeah.
then maybe go into school and you'll have a best friend and you've been best friends for years and everything's rosy and amazing. And then all of a sudden there's this new person that comes in and takes your best friend away. Nobody loves me. I have to save myself. This is me. I'm on my own. You then
Yeah.
maybe go into a job and there's a promotion and you're like, oh my God, like I'm so ready for this promotion. You know, I'm amazing. I do pretty much this job and holiday cover and things like that. And then you then put your CV in lastminute.com and then you
Yeah.
don't get the job, which then revalidates, nobody loves me. I'm not worthy for this. I have to protect myself.
Yeah.
You then start telling yourself this and looking for this validation in life. So you will go out and look for the experiences that then revalidate this very existence, that nobody loves me, that I'm not worthy, that I have to protect myself, which means that you will be given experiences in different capacities to just revalidate the story, because the brain is doing what? It's trying to keep you safe, it's trying to keep you alive. It still thinks there are dinosaurs out there about to bite your head off, right? We all know there's not, but the brain still thinks in that same mentality. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we dive deep on what it is that's really happening and we go back to the hindsight things, when you bring it into the present moment, you're then able to be more aware and go, hold on, I applied for that job, or I wanted to speak to that person, but I know that they speak to somebody else and they've turned around and give me really negative things. But if I don't do this and get out of my comfort zone and do something that's a little bit uncomfortable, I'm never going to know what the outcome is, because normally I just wouldn't have went there. I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have showed up. So
Yeah.
when you become aware of these triggers and these situations and these experiences that are actually creating a pullback effect, you then
Yeah.
all of a sudden come into a different space and you're then catapulted. And I think it's a lot of the reason why a lot of neurospicy people become entrepreneurs, become business owners, because they're ready to take the risk, because they've lived their life consistently doing something for somebody else, whether that's recognized or unrecognized. They're constantly showing up externally instead of internally, and something
Yeah.
snaps. Something then, and sometimes they don't recognize it as a something. They're just like, I'm fed up, I'm stuck, I'm bored, I've got a glass ceiling, I'm tired of working for somebody else, I'm constantly jumping jobs, I'm doing the story, whatever it is,
Yeah.
something will then speak louder and clearer and go, enough's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that shifts everything. But then if you're not aware of what the shift was for, you'll then be in business doing exactly the same thing, looking for the
Yeah.
external validation, looking for people that are going to give you what it is that you need, trying to keep you safe, trying to stay comfortable. And you just repeat the cycle. So when you do the inner work and come back to you, go
Yeah.
back to that same saying I said right at the start. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, but if it was foresight, it could change everything. So when you
Yeah.
become aware of your inner conversation, your inner voice, the real truth, the stuff that nobody hears, the horrible stories that you might tell yourself, the really distasteful comments that you give yourself, when you
Yeah.
start becoming aware of them and going, but this doesn't serve me, this isn't going to get me to where I am. It got me from there to here, but what got me here isn't going to get me there.
Yeah.
That then starts changing your narrative, and you're able to then come into a space where you start looking at things differently, talking differently, becoming more aware of certain things. And I'm not saying we're perfect, because we're not. We will go back and we will learn lessons our whole lifetime, because there's things that are quite big and we're not here long enough to do
Yeah.
everything. But the
Yeah.
things that you can and will be willing to do, step into them. Just go for it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so interesting, isn't it, talking about those cycles and stuff. And it's something that I speak about a lot. And I always think you see it a lot, whether it's, from a dog trainer's perspective, and you see the owners and, they're just going around in this same old cycle again, or whether it's business owners and they're just doing the same old thing. They're doing it because they think they should do it and things. And I think it's that next level of awareness and that kind of like acceptance and being open enough to actually do the inner work. So from a dog business point of view, from the like I touched on it a little bit earlier, from people looking at their business kind of thing, if we do the inner work, it kind of allows us to think, actually, what do I actually want from my business? What do I kind of want from my life, and that kind of thing. And that kind of, like I said before, it shapes what kind of business we make, and also who the type of clients we help is. And one of the things that I've found is, by doing that and by being quite honest and open and saying, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is who I help. So a massive change for me has gone from like saying, I'm not, I don't teach agility beginners very early on in their journey, because they they don't tend to have the same kind of goals that I tend to, so for example, competitive agility, we have to look at all the problems, we have to do all the inner work because we're connected, that kind of thing. And I think when you start, whether it's from a business perspective, start kind of like, I don't really like the word marketing, but kind of marketing yourself and showing up as who you are, I think that aligns to the type of clients you get as well. Because going back to what you said about that conflict, I think it's really, it can be really draining, can't it, when we're getting clients that don't align with us and that kind of thing. And I think sometimes we just put it down to, when we're running a business, or maybe our marketing's off, or maybe it's this that's wrong, and we, like you say, we're trying to put it out, it's somebody else's, it's because of this or it's because of that, when actually it's because we're not actually being honest with ourselves in who we are and who we want to help. And I think that's like super important, because if we're not really aware of that as businesses, as dog business owners, then the type of clients we're going to attract are going to be not aligned to us. And I think when it comes to running a dog business, and when it comes to the type of people you'll attract, you probably know a lot more about this than I do. I always say that, once you are your true self, once you, show who you are, you'll attract the people that are, aligned for you, and you'll kind of repel the other ones. And I think as a neurodivergent person, that's kind of hard to deal with, isn't it? Is thinking that, we're not for everybody, and that rejection sensitive dysphoria comes in and stuff. And what would you say to people listening who do experience that kind of thing? And is there anything you can add from like a spiritual level when it comes to kind of, attracting your ideal clients? Like I say, I don't really know how to explain it other than it's like a magnet. You kind of attract the ones you like and repel the others.
I will give you the biggest tip. And I will say this till I'm blue in the face. And this is how people ask me all the time. They're like, how do you manage your business? How do you do your business? How do you market your business and strategize your business and all the rest of it? And I say, I don't. And they say, why? And I'm like, because I don't have to. And they're like, why? Do you not have like an ideal client that you work with? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And they're like, why not? Why have you not written their story? And I'm like,
yeah,
because this is the biggest thing I'm going to give you. And this will blow you wide open.
yeah.
The ideal client that you are looking for is you 5 to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what you write. It doesn't matter what their name is, how old they are, what they've got, what they're spending. If you don't know who you really, truly were 5 to 10 years ago, because you haven't done the inner work on yourself, you will consistently pull in people that are going to cause frustration, people that are going to cause you upset, people that are going to make you feel scared, people that are going to cause fear, people that are going to, not stay with you for the right reasons, or people that aren't going to take on what you're saying, even though you are explaining it to them, people that aren't going to get the success. Why? Because they weren't you 5 to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
The sooner you do the inner work for you, the sooner you start recognizing who you truly were 5 to 10 years ago, all the little nooks and crannies, all the little conversations that made you feel even more frustrated with yourself, all the memories of the external interactions that you had that made you feel less than perfect, all the frustrations of why isn't it I can't do this, but this other person that's been in this for 2 minutes can't, all these conversations, all these feelings, thoughts. This is your ideal client. And it's not a he, she, they, them. It's none of that. It's the experience. Yeah. What you have to understand is you aren't just a her or a him or a they. You are a person that has experienced things. And that is exactly what your expertise is on. Because you've overcome them. Because regardless if you've done them all, regardless if you've just done one or two, those are the things that you are going to best serve other people for. Why? Because you have practiced what you can preach. And you will know this through and through, from in here and in here, and be able to connect the dots to be able to support other people. So when I see so many business owners and they talk about all this, oh, well, you've got to write down your ideal client avatar. You've got to have this ideal person that you're speaking to. You've got to understand what this person is. And it can be anyone. No, it's not. It never is. It never was. It was you 5 to 10 years ago. And that's a hard thing and a bitter pill for a lot of people to take, because it means that you have to show up and talk about the flaws that you have hidden your whole life. But in order for you to be that version, it means that you come up with raw, authentic truth and honesty. And that will attract the right people instantly to you, because they will feel that, because they are you 5, 10 years ago. I mean, if you
Yeah.
look at all your clients, I can guarantee you, with the exception of maybe one or two that were just completely here for teaching you a lesson or showing you that you needed that sort of massive gratitude of, oh my God, I am blessed, I know what I'm doing. I can
Yeah.
guarantee you 95% of your client base, you sat down and wrote out exactly what the issues and struggles were, you'd be able to tick it off and go, yep, that was me, yep, that was me, yep, that was me, yep, that was me, yep, that was me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think when we start getting down to the simplicity of why business works for some people, it's because
Mhm.
they're willing to do this work.
Yeah, it's so interesting as well, and coming at it from a neurodivergent point of view. One of the things that I massively struggled with until I actually started like getting into Danny's world and like being in the big festoon, because I'd like I say I'd always felt as like an outsider in the dog world, and I'm not that type of person, and I just don't fit in and all that kind of thing. And then I kind of the big festoon kind of like by chance kind of had the very first time I went, I won a ticket there. So I was like, oh, this is all kind of meant to be. And I've completely never been to anything like that in my life, completely like I need to get out of my comfort zone and go. And then what happened is when I was there, I actually the last year, not the one that's just gone, the one before, Lisa Johnson had a stand and she had like this big spinny wheel and things, and I actually won a place on the one-to-many course. So I was like, oh my God, to me. So like all of these things, and that kind of just opened up like my kind of world, so to speak. Because I've been feeling, oh, this is, I'm in the dog world and I don't feel like, me and everything. It's like them and me kind of thing. And I was going to classes and just kind of feeling like the odd one out. And I knew that there was a better way because I'd done it with my dogs and I'd done it with my clients in secret, because one of the things I wasn't really comfortable was doing is putting myself out there. And I think as well, that was because I wasn't sure until I had my diagnosis, until I started being around people that I could relate to and be safe with and, understood by. I was like, I'm not, there's nothing wrong with me. I am normal. It's just that they're a different type of person and this is kind of my type of person kind of thing. But I had to do a lot of that work, a lot of that acceptance, a lot of that awareness. And then I had to kind of be confident enough to put myself out there, which as neurodivergent people, we are just, we're very good at hiding away, aren't we? And just thinking, and it's one of the things that I always say when it comes to even dog owners that are neurodivergent, if we're not making our businesses somewhere that our clients can feel like seen, safe and supported, what they're going to do is they're going to go to that online training. Now there's a big thing in the dog world about how online training is bad because there's a lot of aversive trainers, that kind of stuff. And one of my kind of missions is actually, well, if you're not being inclusive, if you're not making your neurodivergent people feel seen, safe and supported, they are going to go elsewhere, and you're pushing them into these hands of people that you basically talk negatively about. And I think for me, when it comes to confidence, that's been one of the major things I've got to get over, and that inner critic and that kind of conflict as well. So the biggest barriers for me were confidence of putting myself out there, that conflict of people going, actually, I don't really, what if they're going to be nasty to me? What if somebody puts a bad comment, and that kind of thing? And then a kind of that rejection sensitivity as if, well, what if people don't want my services? So I was stuck in this place of, I'm not going to just market myself. And a lot of the work I did I'd say for a good 6 years, I did it in secret. And I was like, well, I still had clients and stuff, but I had a private Facebook group and I was only getting the same type of people. But the people I was getting weren't shouting about me either, because the clients I was attracting in, they were like, oh, look at me. I've trained my dog agility and I've done this myself. And I'm like, okay, but the way business works is we need good positive word of mouth. And I got into this like cycle of, I'm teaching all of these people fantastic things, they're winning up the grades, but no, they're not actually telling anybody about me, which fair enough, they don't have to. But then how on earth am I going to grow my business? So I'm like, and I had all of these kind of things that have gone on this kind of journey, so to speak. But the main thing for me was that confidence of putting myself out there, that fear of rejection, and that fact of I might actually get a little bit of conflict. So what would your advice be on those kind of subjects for anybody that's listening who might feel the same?
So first thing, universe has always got your back. As hard and as shit as things might come and might feel, the universe wants you to win. So
Yeah.
you'll find that you might have something that's coincidence. It's not coincidence. The universe has went, look, they are so downtrodden. We need to give them just even a glimmer of something, a glimmer of
Yeah.
hope. Because if we give them a glimmer of hope, then that will start the cogs returning and going again. The reason why you won the ticket, because you were so downtrodden about things. And then that's why when you went there, you then got the Lisa Johnson one to many, because it was to say to you, look, we know that you should be on this journey. Stop faffing about and doing some sort of afternoon tea up in the forest. Let's come back down and get you back into your lane, right?
Yeah.
But what's interesting about that is if we are so profoundly internally talking negatively to ourselves, we'll then create it. The reason that your business and you kept it private and people didn't speak about it, why? Because your responsibility was to keep it quiet.
Yeah.
So what then happened? Everyone kept it quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're creating all the time, right? And this is the thing, your biggest struggle, because this is what I work with, is limiting beliefs. Your biggest struggle was I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough to be seen. I wasn't good enough to be heard. I wasn't good enough to have the business because my story was externally validated, because people were mean to me, because people said horrible things to me, because people have said stuff to me, which makes me feel unsafe, makes me feel, go back to the same thing, hurt and fearful. So I'm not going to show up because you might hurt me and make me feel scared. So I'm just not going to, I'll do the things, but I'll do it in this way. And then I get frustrated because why isn't people doing the thing? But why are you not doing the thing that I know that you should be doing? Because I'm doing the thing that you're needed. What? Because you are the power horse. When it comes to limiting beliefs, yours is I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough to be this version. I wasn't good enough to show up this way. And that's not trying to be a detriment to you, because you've done a lot of the work. But this is the thing. When we tell ourselves stories, we justify the existence of where we're at and we look for the validation. You know, I had this conversation with the last time. You think of a white car. When was the last time you saw a white car? No idea. You will now go and see white cars all the time. Why? Because I have turned around and told your brain, white car. So the more you think about something, the more you see it. You know, all of a sudden, oh my God, white cars, they're like freaking, there's knickers, there's common as much, you know, all these sort of connotations, because I've then turned around and programmed your brain. So if you're doing the same thing unconsciously, you've programmed your brain from years of keeping yourself safe, keeping yourself quiet, keeping yourself unseen, or whatever the story is, whatever that challenge is, you're constantly going to be then revalidating it. So when you start becoming aware, and this is kind of where I come in and say, look, come into my world. I'm not here to turn in and say, and tell me how that makes you feel. Tell me how that would then show. I'm here to pull all that crud, that inner chat, that shit that you don't tell anyone that you're saying, but you're saying it to yourself regardless. I pull it all out and lay it out bare, scary, raw, really, really shit sometimes. And I go, right, let's work with this. Let's make it different. So you're aware of it. So it means that when you go forward, you can then start recognizing, hold on, that's from that version. I ain't that version no more. Like, I want to be this version. So I need to potentially do the exact opposite. And I can do that. Like, I actually have that choice and power that I can choose something different. Absolutely. And that's when things shift for people, because then you're like, I've got choice. I've got control over how I act, react to anything. I'm not then reactive to other people. I'm not then reactive to situations. I'm able to make a choice for me, by me, because of me. Wow. That then makes things different.
Yeah, definitely. And it is that, it's knowing that you have got a choice, isn't it, to actually do things differently. And I think as neurodivergent people, we're like, oh, doing things differently, that's a bit scary and crazy. But that's definitely when I noticed that shift in me, when I was like, actually, I'm not kind of conforming to this anymore, because I burnt out basically. And I'm like, I can't be that version of me. It makes me ill. Do you know what I mean? Like, and then thinking, actually, what is it I actually want? And having a choice and being different is something that's super, super important when it comes to dog businesses or any kind of business, because yes, that kind of, you know, we're told to be different and stuff. However, it's kind of like being different in a more personal way, if that makes sense. So it's not about being different as in what services do you offer or how, you know, that kind of thing. It's kind of what makes, for me, it was like, what makes me me? And it's kind of that, first of all, I had to accept myself and you know, flaws and all. And like I say, when you work through stuff, it can be difficult, it can be heavy, it can be like, you know, uncomfortable at times. But I think if you're doing that kind of work and knowing that there's going to be a positive outcome at the other end of it, because I think what happens to a lot of business owners, and especially in the dog profession, we kind of get burnt out because there's so much like compassion and emotional things for the dog side of it, that so so much, maybe maybe the dog and the owner are having conflict for whatever reason, either on an emotional level or the goals are different, that kind of thing. But we get especially as neurodivergent, we can tend to be a lot more empathetic, and we can tend to feel animals like deeply and that kind of thing. So I think for me, it's about, first of all, looking within and going, actually, what am I feeling? What do I want to do in the business? What can I do better? Because we get to this point where it all crumbles, and then we either stop and give up the business and go and do something else, or we have to massively reevaluate things. And I think it's really, really difficult in this industry with so many negative things going on, and so many, like with any industry really. So if people are feeling a little bit like that, how would you suggest that they, nothing's sometimes not easy, but an easy kind of way to actually regain a little bit of control and a little bit of actually, before this gets out of hand, or I can recognize these certain signs that maybe they've listened to this podcast today and thought, actually, that is me. Where would you suggest they start tuning into themselves a little bit more?
So there's a couple of things that I always suggest to people. The first thing is choice. Choice doesn't mean change. It just means that you are picking yes or no. Sometimes it's a no, sometimes it's a yes. Sometimes you need to go through the same thing, the same story, until you get so fed up of it. You're like, right, what's the other side of it? Let's choose yes and see what happens. The other thing is, it's that shift. It's the subtle shifts. Like I recognize I can't handle to-do lists. They drive me insane. My to-do lists are lists, and then I have lists for the lists for the list of the lists. So I did a subtle change. I went from to-do to to-da. Because a to-da is a challenge. If I can do something, ta-da! Self-gratification. I've achieved something. Oh, that's a dopamine hit. Oh, I could do more of that, because that felt... So instead of it being to do, I was becoming... It's the difference between what I class as being a human doer, where we're just constantly doing things, not really emotively connected or any way, shape, or form. We're just like robots. We're just here, we're doing shit. It's horrible, but I know I have to. Da means you start being in it and going, oh God, that actually made me feel good. And that then makes me feel like I've cleaned that room. I know I'm going to get a good sleep tonight because that room is clean. Or I'm going to go and practice this with my dog, but we're going to do it outside in the garden where it's sunny and I can sit and we can take rests, rather than we're going to go to the agility class and then I'm going to get frustrated because you're not feeling great and I'm not feeling great and I'm already burnt out because I've did my to-do list instead of my to-da list. And right. So it's the subtle things. But one of the biggest things that I say to people is, when we feel frustrated, when we feel procrastination, when we feel burnout, we aren't actually feeling these things. This is our body saying, stop. Just even for 5 minutes, just stop. Stop and get outside and sit down in the grass, or stop and go and have that shower, or go and have that cup of tea, or go for that walk, or sit in the car and just drive somewhere where you're just not having to think. Even if it's just 10 minutes, just do something completely different than what you're doing right now. And just shifting that space, the environment, and that option can be enough for you to be like, okay, so what's really going on? Why is it that this is coming up? Go back to the 5 whys. Why am I feeling this? Why is that? Why? Come back to that. And once you start coming back to yourself, and you recognize that sometimes it's okay to stop. It's not because I'm procrastinating or I'm facing burnout. I just need 5 minutes because my head is full of stuff and I just need it to just simmer down a bit. I maybe need to just go and lie down and listen to some music or do a meditation or whatever it is. I maybe need to go and reevaluate where I am versus where I want to be and start with the end in mind. What do I want? What do I want to feel in 5 years' time? Where do I want to be in 20 years' time? Make it up. Doesn't matter. It's an exercise that takes you out of that sheer negative, blocking, crappy, cruddy space and gives you something different to feel.
Yeah, definitely. So interesting. Like I say, you mentioned a couple of things there about the dopamine hits and things. That's it, bringing it into the dog world. And as a neurodivergent person, that's something that really, really affected me. And I always talk about, the human kind of things. And what I went to an agility class once, and I was like, actually, it was really boring, and I couldn't work out why. Like we was literally doing one jump, and my dog gets fed up of repetition, and I didn't realize, so did I. And I was like, it was fine, everybody was dealing with it, and I was driving home and I was angry and I was frustrated, not that anything bad had gone wrong. And I'm like, what on earth is going on? And I was like, actually it's because I wasn't getting that dopamine hit from doing the agility, from seeing my dog do well, or from a movement or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, that just recognizing that, how, as a neurodivergent, how our brain is seeking those dopamine hits and how it was impacting on the experience I was having with my dog is like super important. And I think as well, like I say, it always comes back to recognizing things and always looking at internal things. And like I say, those why things I always talk about. And I'm like, why are you feeling, why is your dog acting like that? But why, and all of that. So it does massively resonate with me and things. And I think it's really important that when it comes to dog businesses, as neurodivergent owners, one of the things that we are scared to do is actually make that change. But actually listening, hopefully people have been listening to the podcast and going, I can be different, I can change things, I don't have to fit inside this box, and I don't have to, I do have a choice. And then the other thing a light bulb moment when you was talking was about just stopping and breathing. And I think going back to that kind of like hamster wheel and those cycles, one of the things that massively happened for me is I over the last few months have been on this like massive journey of changing the business and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't actually realize only until the past few weeks, actually, when I'd started to stop a lot more and, doing, I say ridiculous things. Like I'll just go and sit in the garden and just sit in my chair with a cup of tea. And the other day I caught myself just like staring at my lavender plant, and I was just literally just watching it. And I was like, oh, that's nice. Anyway, the more I did this kind of like just stopping and pausing, the more I realized, oh my God, this makes sense because I talk about it from a dog perspective, but I have been living my life in that high, that high stress level, that high, that high cortisol, that, my body has got so used to living in that it was always seeking that kind of, you're not stressed enough yet. So let's make you a little bit more stressed. And it wasn't until I completely stepped back and gone, wow, I can't believe I was living in that stress. But I didn't know any different because, like you say, you get on this cycle of just chasing things all of the time, don't you? And I think sometimes you do have to just stop and go, hold on a minute. And it kind of breaks that little cycle. And then for ages, I fought with the fact that I'm not doing enough. I'm just having a rest and I'm having time off. And, I'm just literally not doing any work and stuff. And it was like this constant battle. But coming out of it, you have to fight with yourself to make yourself do that, to kind of come out the other end, don't you? It's crazy when you see it, when you've been on that journey and you see it and you're the other side of it, you're like, oh, this all kind of makes sense. But sometimes people don't realize they're on that journey, do they?
No, absolutely. And that's just purely because the brain has created that habit. It's the change from being a human doer and a human being. It's a change from to do to da. It's the change from making a change that's really frustrating and hard and I don't want to do it, to making a choice that feels easy and okay. It's that little shift that help you then go, oh, okay. And I can do that. Like I'm allowed. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's madness. I mean, amazing. It's been fascinating speaking to you, and I could speak to you all day, but obviously I'm not going to take up all of your day. So what we're going to do is we're going to finish off with 5 quick fire round questions so we can get to know you a little bit more. Are you ready? Because they're super difficult.
Okay, let's go.
Right, number 1, tea or coffee?
Tea.
Tea. Oh yes, I always like it when I get a bit of a dopamine hit when people are in the tea camp, because my husband's very much coffee and I'm very much tea. So I'm like, oh yeah, you want one for the tea camp.
So, well, it's interesting. I do like tea, but I make my own teas, and although it's tea, I do have 1 cup of standard tea a day. I drink more herbal teas. Like today, I was drinking fermented ginger and lemon. Still a tea, but I use things holistically to help support my body and the things that I go through. So yeah.
Amazing. I feel like that's another podcast episode all on it. So number 2, what's one tool or app you can't live without in your business?
One tool or app, my frequency device. So I work with frequencies. I work with them for animals, humans, houses. the device itself is called a Healy device. It's more manual made rather than more I can tune things in. But I work with scientists who can give me frequencies for specific things. I learned very quickly that our bodies are made up of frequencies, and when we break them right down, even our organs have different frequencies. And I work with clients that have neurodiversity or have chronic conditions like fibromyalgia, MS, strokes, things like that. And I work with my frequency device to help alleviate some of the conditions, the illnesses, or the symptoms, to then be able to help them really kind of come to terms with, realistically, the chronic issues that you're having have come because you haven't listened to your body energetically, and your body's now screaming for you to listen, because the word disease is our body's under dis-ease. It's not happy. It's not in an ease and flow way. So my frequency device.
Amazing. Super interesting. Right. So what's a hobby or interest you have outside of work that people might not expect?
A hobby. I'm a petrol head.
Amazing.
So I trained originally as a mechanic, and back in the day when I was younger, there wasn't a lot of women that did mechanics, and I had long blonde hair. When I was bent over a bonnet, the guy was like, "You're a good mechanic, but last, nobody else is doing mechanics there, so I'm sorry." So I'm a petrol head, and I'm lucky enough that my partner is a mechanic and we now own our own garage, so I get to go down and tinker whenever I like. So
amazing. I feel like I could just move you into my house for lots of different reasons. Like, I can solve all of my problems and my car problems and everything else. So are you a morning person or a night owl?
I'm neither. It's interesting because I used to think I was very much a morning person, and yes, I am quite productive in the morning, but I'm productive in the morning because I fast, so I don't eat from 7 o'clock at night right through till around about lunchtime. So I'm most productive then because my body is doing the things that it needs to do. But I would say my ultimate time for creativity and really being in that space is sort of just before lunchtime, just before I eat, where I'm like zone of genius is like, oh my God, I could do this and I could do that and I could do this and I could do that and I could do this. So sort of round about lunchtime, I'm a sort of in-betweeny. I'm definitely not a night owl. I like being in my bed like 10 o'clock latest. Anything past that, and I'm like, is it time to go home yet? Is it time for my bed?
I'm the same. I like sit on the sofa and try and watch something at night, and I'm like, within 10 minutes I'm asleep, and I always wake up just as the credits are rolling, and then I'm super frustrated and I'm like, right, thanks for that. So what's your favorite way to recharge after a busy day?
Going out barefoot in the grass. I spend a lot of time. My kids love the first thing that my kids do when they come in. The first thing that they do is socks and shoes are off. And I think we've forgotten the simplicity of being able to recharge our batteries in the most efficient way, and that is going out and getting our feet connected to the earth. My house, we specifically bought it because it has a soil solemn, so it's not concrete floors or anything like that. It's timber construction, just so it means that we're connected to the earth. So yeah, getting out and just I roll about in the grass. My kids think I'm mental sometimes, but now they get it and they do it with me.
Yeah, that's it. No, I completely am with you on that one. And the most important question of all, if people are listening and they want to work with you further and learn a lot more about what you do, where can they find you?
We have Facebook, Instagram, or the website, all under K3 UK Coaching.
Amazing. And what we'll do is we'll put the links underneath the podcast so people can just easily click it and come and find you, basically. So thank you very much for coming on to the podcast. I've loved talking to you, and I feel like I say, we've got at least another 3 podcast episodes on different things later on in the year. But thank you very much for coming on. If you're listening to the podcast for the first time, make sure you hit follow or subscribe depending on where you are watching it from. And thank you for watching. Thank you, Sarah, for joining me. It's goodbye from me and goodbye from Sarah.
Bye.